Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Still off?
Sunnah. There's a question from Bay Area, California. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. May Allah continue to bless you. Mufti, can a woman wear a wig cap at home to beautify herself for her husband? Jazakallah khairan.
Question is from the Bay Area of California. Can a woman wear a wig or wig cap to beautify herself for her husband at home? May Allah bless you as well and continue to um, allow you to study and to benefit and to learn. I mean, a woman should not wear a wig or any wig cap at home to beautify herself for her husband. She should not do this. She should avoid it. It should be stayed away from. If a woman wishes to change her hairstyle, then there are many permissible substitutes and alternatives. Hundreds of hairstyles, permissible dyes, things that aren't harmful to your body, things that are natural. So many different variations in which you can mix up your hairstyle for yourself and for your husband, which there's no complication nor any type of scrutiny or discrepancy regarding. Hundreds of things. That's first and foremost. As far as if a woman is suffering from something, scalp disease or hair disease or hair loss or stress or things like this, and also other permissible substitutions. And the fact that your husband, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, he should find beauty in you no matter what. As long as you're trying to do your best, he should also try to do his best. So you have an issue with your hair, or you're insecure about your hair, or self-conscious, or whatever the case may be, you try your best to jazz it up and to do what you can. And your husband is to try the best to appreciate it and value it and be patient upon the situation that Allah has placed him in. And there's nothing or no one who is perfect in this world. The most beautiful woman is going to have a flaw. And if her body is flawless, then her mind will be flawed. Her character will be flawed. She'll have a sickness. Somewhere down the line, she won't have church. Something will prevent you from having absolute and total enjoyment. All right? And I don't think there's a person who is in his correct state of mind which is going to demand and require absolute perfection from his spouse. Because you're not perfect. No matter how handsome or strong or witty or smart you think you are, you have flaws, you have errors, you have shortcomings that the next man doesn't have. So we all have to be patient and we have to be pleased and content with what Allah has given us. All right? As far as if a woman had an extreme case, alopecia or whatever the case may be, something extreme, and her hair is falling out, or she has some type of cancer or something like this, then perhaps it will be permissible, according to some scholars, for her to wear a wig or some type of false hair in an extreme situation. All right? That's the best thing which should be done. And inshallah ta'ala, you can go to the channel. I believe we've done a 2-part series on this. Some detailed rulings of hair and the extensions of hair and fake hair and false hair. What do the ulama of Islam say about these issues? You can find it on HadithDisciple on enhancing one's hair. Wallahu a'lam.
The question is from Birmingham, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. Once all facts are verified, should one warn against someone who has been caught lying or deceiving others during the marriage process? If so, to who? Imam of the masjid? Jazakallah khair.
Questions from Birmingham. If all the facts have been discovered that someone is lying regarding marriage, then should we warn from that person? Who should we warn the person from? Who should we go to and report the person, etc.? Make sure, number one, is that what you say of facts are actual facts. And many people think things are facts, but in actuality, they're not facts. It's still conjured information, bits and pieces. It's nothing solid. All right? And I think that we should be able to take an example as Muslims. Of course, the Quran and Sunnah is the means of guidance, first and foremost. But it doesn't mean that we don't take examples from other things. The Quran clearly tells us to look and to open our eyes and to observe and to reflect. Look at the legal system and look at criminals and people that are caught stealing and murdering and doing things. The prosecutors, the lawyers, the judges, they know this person is a criminal. They know this person is a boss of a crime family. They know the murders that have been given out, the hits that have been given out by this person. They know who's who and what's what. They know. but they do not make an attempt to go after that criminal and to go after this don, this crime boss, until they have something firm and something that will stick. And then they sink their fangs and their claws in him and send him away for the rest of his life. And they don't go after him with conjured things, speculations, some weak witness, some drunk person, some person on drugs, some petty little small criminal. They don't do that because they know that the people are hasty and they want the criminal. So they think it's a fact, it's proof. But in actuality, in the court of law, it's what? It's not a fact and it isn't proof. And the judge, the jury, and a strong lawyer will do what? They'll laugh at those things. My client, can he go now? I think this case should be dismissed. And they walk out and they humiliate them. All right, so this is a very important part of history. You look at some of the most infamous and famous criminal leaders, they waited until they had something, what? Solid to get them with. So many people, they think that they have a fact. They think it's proof because you have a screenshot or this person or that person. In actuality, it's not a fact. And it's something which is just a piece, a tidbit, a snippet. This person himself who said he's lying is also a liar. Everyone understand this? That's the first thing. So make sure that your facts are what? Facts. And this is very applicable to dawah as well. Before you start talking about someone or refuting someone, make sure that you have what? Factual information. Number two is make sure that you're free from the situation. Make sure it's not a brother who didn't want to marry you or a sister who didn't want to marry you because you obviously have a motive. You're upset or you're sore or sour. You're mad because this person rejected you, so now I'm going to show the world that he's a liar. But when you were thinking about marrying her, you didn't care if they were a liar, nor did it matter to you. So the moment you start smearing someone's reputation and tarnishing someone's reputation, and then we find and we discover that you had a relationship with that person, and you wanted that person, and you got rejected by that person, how is that going to make you look? It's not going to make you look well. It's not going to make you look good, and it's going to cause a perpetual cycle of smear campaign. And that's how we live today. So if there's a need, if there's a necessity, if you have facts, and if you're free from the situation, and you have to warn someone from a liar that's clearly a liar, that's a different story. As far as getting back at someone, as far as having a full cup, as far as thinking that you have facts to prove something, it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous, and Allah knows best.
The question is from Minneapolis. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. What does one do when they finish the salah? They realize they perhaps forgotten parts of the surah they read, or they have made mistakes in the surah. Would their salah still be valid?
Questions from Minneapolis, Minnesota. A person finishes his or her salah, and they realize they made mistakes in the surah, or forgot some of the surah. What do they do? Is their prayer valid? As long as you recited the Fatiha correctly and properly, that's all that matters. As long as you recited the Fatiha correctly, then inshallah ta'ala there's nothing that you have to go back and do. The generality of whenever you forget to make the sajda to sahu is there. But forgetting in the salah is not pertaining to recitation. Sajda to sahu is pertaining to an action of the prayer. A rukin, a wajib, shart, a sunnah, etc. Physical, tangible piece of the prayer. As far as forgetting a part of the surah, then that does not necessitate nor make it recommended to make sujood as-sahu. Wallahu alam.
Question from Minnesota. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. I was wondering, do we get ajr, good deeds for doing simple sunnah acts like sleeping on your right side, using sawab, doing jama, visiting the ill, etc.?
The question is from where again? I'm sorry.
Minnesota.
What city?
Minnesota?
Minnesota?
Yeah.
What? That's just the state. They didn't mention the city.
No.
Perhaps it's Minneapolis. Inshallah. Do we get the reward for doing small, easy, or simple, quote unquote, these acts of the sunnah, such as sleeping on the right side and doing things like this, visiting the ill, etc.? As long as it's something that the Prophet ﷺ did of worship, of ibadah. It wasn't a custom, but it was ibadah, worship. And then he told the people to do it, and he taught the people to do it, and he did it in front of the people, and he encouraged them to do it, then it is a means of virtue and reward, no matter how small and simple it may be. And only Allah knows how great it will be in your scale of good deeds. And a small, simple act proves consciousness. And it proves that you're aware. The sheer fact that you're going to sleep, the Muslim says, well, I prayed, I fasted, I didn't steal, I didn't rob, I didn't do anything bad. Let me just fall asleep. But you make the adhkar, you perform the wudu, you sleep on your right side, you're conscious of Muhammad's sunnah. That's a proof of iman. So it's much greater than just the concept of reward or small, but it's the concept of the mental state. Is that you're mindful of Allah all of the time. And you're mindful of following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ what? All of the time. And that is tremendous virtue. That's a tremendous virtue. So don't scorn any type of good deed or any act of sunnah, no matter how simple it may seem to be to you. Wallahu alam.
A question is from Brooklyn, New York. What colors should a female student of knowledge wear in her home when studying?
Questions from Brooklyn. What colors should a female student of knowledge wear in her home when studying? Whatever you feel comfortable in. If your home is safe and you're not in front of non-mahram men or even in front of some mahrams, wear an appropriate color. And if you're by yourself, wear whatever you like to wear. Wear what you feel comfortable in. And if you wanted a recommended color, then I would recommend your favorite color. Or I would recommend a color that makes you feel in a certain mood or vibe that puts you in a serious state or a relaxed state. Either of the two. There are certain colors that you wear and you feel serious and concentrated. And there are other colors that make you relax and calm down. So if you're trying to memorize something or read something or you're staying up all night, you wear the appropriate colors, inshallah ta'ala. And it is a science behind colors. We all know that. Interior decoration is a science. Colors and what they mean and symbolize to the eyes is a science, is an ilm. Just like there's a science of smells, and there's a science of sounds, and there's a science of touch, and there's a science of taste. It's things that Allah has blessed the human to discover. All right? So therefore, wear the colors that put you in the studious mode. And not just the colors, but the type of clothing. A person may say that, well, you know, I'm in the house and I can wear anything when I'm sitting and studying. But when you wear pajamas, how do you feel? When you put on a certain type of clothing, when you put this on, it makes you feel a certain way. So studying is a whole complete what? Process. That would be my advice, and Allah knows best.
A question is from New York, New York. What is the ruling on gender revealed parties in Islam?
Gender revealed?
Parties.
A gender revealed party in Al-Islam, coming from New York, New York. I'm not absolutely sure on what's a gender revealed party. Perhaps they mean free mixing, lack of gender segregation. Perhaps they mean that. Allahu alam. But that seems to be the question. If that is the question, we've answered this many times. You can go on Mufti Q&A. And the bottom line is that these parties should be avoided. You should stay away from them. Unless it's the gender mixing, which is totally permissible. This is my father, my mother, my daughter, my stepson, my wife, my aunt, so on and so forth. That's one thing. And we're all dressed properly. That's one thing. But total strangers, non-mahrams, mixing, seeing, that's dangerous. That's very dangerous. And many things take place from the eye. Whether it is lust, lustful intentions, whether it's rape, whether it is ayn, whether it is illegal contact that come from people not lowering their gaze, or not following the proper Islamic regulations with regards to sex and gender. So any party which is just open for all sexes, and it's a free for all, and there's no type of boundary or proper separation, then it's going to be very dangerous. Wallahu alam.
Question is from Bronx, New York. Is an error in manhaj a matter of aqidah or fiqh? Does it remove a person from salafiyah?
Tayyib. Question comes from the Bronx. Is an error in manhaj an error in aqidah, and does it remove a person from salafiyah? First and foremost is we have to understand the terminologies that are being used. Regardless whether the terminologies are right or wrong, correct or incorrect, but just understand the wording. What is meant by the word manhaj or minhaj? And many people, I know for sure as a fact, They don't know what they say. And they are just parrots and tape recorders repeating information. They don't know what it is. And the proof is when you sit down and ask them to explain themselves, they can't. And they'll get angry and they'll get mad and they'll start abusing you and calling you names because they don't know what they're saying. What's meant by the word menhaj or minhaj? Menhaj is general methodology. Methodology in what? He has a problem in minhaj. Minhaj in what? Minhaj of me making my tea. I use this type of tea bag. I use loose leaf. My minhaj in my dress. I like to wear this. I like to have that. My minhaj of speaking. My way. So we're talking about minhaj of Ahlus Sunnah. You have to define what you're talking about. How Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, how they deal with the nusus, the text. Minhaj al-talaqi. Khabar ahad, mashhur, mutawatir. Do we differentiate between the types of hadiths? Or do we take all of them as long as they're what? Authentic. That's a minhaj of taking the text. The minhaj of Ahlus Sunnah with regards to dealing with rulers is a Muslim ruler who's sinful. Do we revolt against him? Do we remove him? Do we curse him? Do we advise him? Do we make enjoying the good forbid the evil? We have a way, a methodology. The methodology of Ahlus Sunnah in calling to Allah is that they use every opportunity. They use messages. They use this. They write letters, etc. The minhaj of Ahlus Sunnah, the minhaj of Islam in raising children. So people, they just use the word too vaguely and too general. Minhaj. Minhaj in what? Minhaj fi da'wah, minhaj fi ta'amul ma'al mukhalif, minhaj fi al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar, etc. All right? So people, they just broad brush and they use these terms incorrectly and unscientifically. So what do you mean by minhaj? All right? That's first and foremost. Secondly is minhaj is going to be the bigger or larger circle. And included in that circle is the circle of Aqidah. And Islam is a total way of life and death. What we believe in, what we do, how we behave, how we lead, how we are led, etc. That's the general concept. And included in that is Al-Aqidah and Tawheed and Iman. So sometimes one is larger than the other, and sometimes they could be synonymous. It depends on what you mean and how you use it. Everyone understand this or not? As far as when does a person leave the Sunnah, when does a person leave the circle of Ahlul Sunnah, Ahlul Hadith, then obviously this has become a very hot topic today for clear reason. And we say to keep things brief and to keep things simple. If a person clearly opposes a principle upon which there is consensus, a principle that's backed by the text and the evidence, and they do this obstinately, inadan, laysa muta'awwilan, not that he thinks he's doing the right thing, he has a proof, he may be mistaken, he may be right, but he just wants to go against it. I don't care, I'm doing it anyway. And the proof and the evidence is given to him, supplied to him, and the advice is given, and the person continues and persists upon that, then that's a scenario. That's a what? A scenario, and I don't think, and Allah knows best, it's my humble opinion, I don't think there is a brother from among the people who have been refuted and warned against who wants to do that. I don't think so. Someone who graduated from Medina University, who studied, who learned this, who did this, who taught this, who translated this, who just wants to just go against a principle of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah obstinately and stubbornly. I don't think so. Someone who has a different background, that was never upon the way of the Sunnah, different story. Someone who has left it a long time ago and says, I'm no longer like this. I don't no longer believe in this. That's a what? That's a different story. But someone who's teaching the books of the ulama of Islam, who's calling to the Sunnah to practice the deen, teaching and speaking the layman 9 to 5 Muslims, I don't think they want to just what? Go against the usul of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah intentionally. And if it's something that was that clear and that obvious for someone to just be evil and just want to go against it, I don't think that exists, but so often. All right, and I'm not denying the fact that people can go astray, and Allah guides whom He wills and misleads whom He wills. We say that every single Friday. من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. That's not هذا ليس محل إشكال. That's not a problem. But we're talking about the sick culture of a graduate of the Islamic University of Medina not being friends with a person, or disagreeing with a scholar, or saying something controversial, or saying actually a mistake. And then someone who didn't study, who didn't graduate, who's jealous, who's envious, and who's a competitor for status and authority says, oh, he made a mistake. And he said this in a lecture, and we got this point, and we wrote this PDF, and we called Sheikh Falan on the phone, and now he's an innovator. And we've given him advice. That's the nonsense and the garbage that I'm what? Talking about. And which everyone knows this brother's pedigree. Everyone knows Falan and where he studied. And what he taught in the books and the dawah that he gave for 10 and 20 years. Everyone knows that. And then an issue came up. He had a problem with a brother, or he's going to expose these sinful fusaq, wannabe fake imposter students of knowledge. And then they threatened him, if you don't keep silent about our sins and our orgies and our parties and the haram stuff that we do, in the name of Salafiyah, we're going to warn against you. And we will create mistakes that you've made. Everyone understand this? That's what I'm talking about. And the hypocrisy that has been going on for the 25 and 30 years in the past. And which a person calls a person a hizbi. How dare you call someone a hizbi, a partisan? If you looked it up in a Webster's dictionary, you would find your face under partisan. Only study with us. Only go to these masjids. Only learn from these sheikhs. Only talk to these brothers. Don't give salams to these brothers. Only buy a book from these brothers. What is that? Anta al-hizbi. You're the hizbi. And the people with you, they're upon hizbiyah. And the people who refuse it and say, I'm not getting on my knees and I'm not worshiping nobody. And I'm not throwing away the brain that I have for any sheikh or scholar or any person in the UK or in America. I don't care who you are. I don't believe that I made a mistake. Nor do I believe it's haram to say this. And I don't agree with Sheikh Fulan saying this person is an innovator. If that's being a hizbi, then so be it. But in actuality, you're the partisan. You're the one who's in a clique, in a gang, in a group. And you're the one who says, don't go to no other masjids. Don't go to no other speakers. No one has any good or virtue except for what? Us. And we have the right to refute and to clarify mistakes and errors of everyone. But the moment a person throws a tiny pebble at our window, we cry and we pour out tears. And don't take this from me, brothers. It's not extremism. This is reality. Look on the internet. They refute, they criticize. Let you refute one brother. The first thing they say, he's attacking the Salafis. He's refuting the Salafis. He doesn't talk about Ahlul Bidah. But you refute, you criticize all day and all night. So who's actually the partisan? Who's the hizbi? And who's really following the Salaf? Was the Salaf, was this way of taqleed and ta'assub, blind following and fanaticism, and marching behind a scholar, and then discarding and throwing away the scholar, and jumping on another bandwagon of another scholar? Is that the way of the Salaf? I don't think so. And I don't think anyone in common sense and two open eyes and sincere heart would agree with that. That's the way of the Salaf as-Salih. So it depends on what you mean by going against and making a mistake in Menh Hedge going outside of Salafiyah. The Salafiyah that these people call and the game that they play and the nonsense and the havoc that they cause, that is not the way of the Salaf. And if saying this and speaking out against this, if that gets me refuted or warned against, or someone who's my friend doesn't want to speak to me no more, then what? So be it. We could care less. Wallahi, we won't lose any sleep. If that is what we have to do to speak what we believe is the truth. And if we're mistaken, and if we're wrong in this, we will certainly stand in front of Allah. Just like what? You will stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahu alam.
Questions from Brooklyn, New York. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. What advice would you give a new Muslim who says he doesn't wear a cross for worship, but for fashion?
Question from Brooklyn. Advice to a new Muslim who wears a cross. I don't wear it for worship, I wear it for fashion. Just be gentle with them. And encourage him to study, encourage him to learn. Encourage him to enjoy brotherhood in Islam. Make him welcome in the masjid. Make him feel welcome in the mosque. And bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, he himself will take the cross off. He'll discard the crucifix. That's what I would advise. Wallahu alam.
Question from Phoenix, Arizona. Can I make salah with just ghusl?
Question comes from Phoenix. Can I make salah with just ghusl? It depends what type of ghusl you made. If it was just a normal bath, then no. If you made a ghusl for janaba or for menstruation, then of course you've removed al-hadath al-akbar, major impurity. And included in the major impurity being removed is the minor impurity, such as passing wind and things like this. So if you make the spiritual ghusl in the shower, whether you do it the general way or whether you do it the specific way in steps, you come out the bathroom, you don't touch your private part, you don't pass wind or nothing, you're in a state of wudu without a question. Wallahu alam.
A question from Baltimore, Maryland. What is the virtues of study other than hadith?
Questions from Baltimore. What are the virtues of studying other than hadith? Everything that you study in Islam is going to be a means of benefit. Everything. And everything is needed to run a successful masjid and a successful community. You need people who can recite the Quran. If you want to make a school and an institute, you need people who know language. You need people who know lugha al-Arabiya. You need people who know fiqh and usul al-fiqh. You need people who know tafsir. All of the sciences and the fields of expertise are what? They're all needed, all of them. And it's all ilm. Ilm nafi', inshallah, beneficial knowledge, all of it. All right? So when we call to hadith and propagate hadith, under any circumstance doesn't mean that there's no value in any other field. Abadan, it doesn't mean that. But we believe that hadith is the best. And we believe hadith is the most superior. And we believe hadith includes those other sciences, and those other sciences are in tremendous debt to ilm al-hadith. That's what we mean. Wallahu alam.
Question from Farwania, Kuwait. How to respond to waswas? And I became a tea addict after I saw you drinking so passionately. May Allah bless you in both worlds. Try green tea. It's refreshing. Jazakallah.
Tight. Question is from Kuwait with regards to how to respond to waswasa. And I became a tea addict after I saw you drinking tea so passionately. May Allah bless you. Tight. Don't respond to waswasa. Turn away from it. If Allah tells us, وَأَعْرَضَ عَنِ الْجَاهِلِينَ, turn away from the ignorant, then what do you think is about, the rule on turn away from shaitan? And turning away from your own nafs. And turning away from those whispers of those things that come your way. Turn away from them. Seek Allah's refuge and turn away from them. As far as if you gradually listen to them or entertain them or allow them to come, then they will dominate you and they will control you and take over you and ruin your life. They'll ruin your life. And we all know the story of Adam alayhi salam and his mate, his pair, Hawa, and what Shaitan said to them and what he promised them and how he whispered to them, and look what happened to them. So the ulama of Islam, they say from the story of Adam and Hawa, they say that evil starts off small. Evil starts off as something very small and very simple. And oftentimes people, they scorn it. But it ends in something very terrible. So therefore, you cannot listen to any type of waswasa. And if you feel that you have the waswasa in the bathroom, in the salah, marriage, buying, selling, food being halal, turn away from it. Ignore it. Seek Allah's refuge and keep your mind busy with that which is beneficial and fruitful of the deen and of the dunya. As far as, alhamdulillah, you enjoying tea and becoming addicted to tea, then alhamdulillah, I'm happy to hear that. Tea has a very long and rich history and culture, and there are many benefits in it. May Allah bless you.
Question from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm trying to memorize 40 hadith. Should I learn the meaning first or memorize? And which part on the hadith should be memorized?
Questions from Atlanta, Georgia regarding tips on memorizing 40 hadiths. Should I focus on the meanings or just the memorization? Which parts? Do it all. When you know what the hadith means, it allows you to know what is the next sentence. Because you know it doesn't make sense for this sentence to come before that sentence. Whether that's in Arabic or in English. And also, it allows you to have the ability to quote it, even if it's not word for word. Because you know the sound meaning of it. All right? But it doesn't mean that you have to know every single thing before you can memorize a thing. It doesn't mean that. You can memorize something and have no understanding of it whatsoever. And memory is always limited, brothers and sisters. Understanding and comprehension is eternal. So when it comes to your child, or when it comes to you being a young student of knowledge, you have to strive and try your best to memorize as much as you possibly can. And push come to shove, for argument's sake, a person says, I'll get the understanding later on. It's not a waste. And if you made tahfiz of the Quran with your son, and he memorized the whole Quran before he was 15 or 18, it's a virtue. And then inshallah he learns the tafsir. And there's nothing wrong, of course, with you teaching your son the tafsir and the meanings as he goes along, but it's not the same. You don't need to be young and strong and witty to understand. But memory is a different story. Everyone understand this? It's a different story. Okay? So bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, listen to the audio, listen to the 40 hadiths being read, read it, go along, practice, and inshallah repetition is the key. Repetition is the key. Wallahu a'lam.
A question from Toronto, Canada. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh Mufti. What is the proper way of writing a will? Islamic way of writing a will. Is there a book or certain type of references?
Tayyip, this will be our last question that we take tonight. The proper way of writing an Islamic will. Is there a book or is there a reference? Yes. There is a right way. There is a proper way. And there are countless sources online and things that have been printed. Perhaps we can send you one via email, inshallah. There are ways. But the general concept of the will is for you to write and to establish certain things with regards to your body and how you want it to be treated and cared for, who you wish to wash it, who you leave in charge of certain things and responsibilities, and who you leave behind a portion of your wealth. Everyone understand this? So if that's done, and it's done in a basic, simple way, then khalas. But if you want to do it the proper way, it's notarized, it's signed, it's dated, it's officially stamped, and it's done in a specific, detailed manner, that best. So you have the option of doing either of the two. Wallahu alam. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. Jazakumullah khairan. Inshallah, the next live stream, if we make it to San Diego safely, we'll be there in San Diego, inshallah ta'ala. The next live stream, tomorrow night, Thursday night, inshallah ta'ala, in San Diego, California. Jazakumullah khairan. Make sure you guys tune in, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And I ask Allah to place you under His protection.